What's up, guys? Before you check out this video, I want you to go over to KennyFlorianMartialArts.com. That's where I have my first and only instructional, and you can get 15% off with the coupon code YouTube. A lot of times we just repeat things without really understanding why. We get a lesson and, my professor told me to never do this or never do that, and we don't really question it, and it ends up getting passed on from teacher to teacher, student to student, and I think it's really important to always kind of question why a technique is done or why a certain rule is followed, and we're going to talk about the top 3 fallacies in Jiu-Jitsu. First thing, from closed guard, you generally do not want to put your hands on the mat because he can wrap it up here, right, tie it up. Now it makes it more difficult for me to break guard, of course. I can't really do much to him here. He could potentially set up things like gi chokes, but more than anything else, it's annoying for me. He could also, if I put my hand on the mat, he can go for things like kimuras, right? From the closed guard position, I would say that is true. But if I'm passing and the guard is already open, the legs are already open, it is absolutely okay for me to use my hands for stability on the mat. This is going to provide an ability for me to get stable to the floor and prevent him from sweeping me. So if he tries to push me over to this side, I can use my hand for stability. I can also use it to generate force back into him. If I'm trying to wrap this up, just hold that a little bit, hold it super tight. Because I'm in the open guard position, it's not necessarily a dangerous position for me. I can always pull it back out. I'm not in his closed guard where he's going to be able to arm bar me or anything like that. So using your hand on him, yes, this is good, but it's also not great if I'm only kind of stuck to him because he can also sweep me here this way. If he is trying to sweep me, right, I can use my hand to kind of stop things like sweeps and attacks. I can push back into him, right, and get his hips to switch over to the other side by using my hands on the mat. I can get nice and wide if I'm using things like float passing, right, to kind of come through his guard, right? Putting your hands on the mat while we're passing gives us good stability to the mat. It gives us good balance. It gives us a wider base, and it's not necessarily something that you can't do. So think about that as you're passing someone's open guard, that yes, you can put your hand on the mat. In a lot of cases, it's actually an advantage and not a disadvantage. The next thing I want to talk about is back control. For the 𝐸𝐵𝐽𝐽F, the only way for you to get 4 points, which is the maximum amount of points that you can get in a jiu-jitsu tournament, is to put your feet on the inside of the legs. And from here, you will then get your 4 points. For me, I was always told, coming up, that this was the best way to control someone. If we put our hooks on the inside and Josh goes to roll away, right? Let's say you roll to your stomach, he's trying to get away from me. I can follow him. If he goes the other way, I can follow him still, right? Just by holding on to him. The rules indicate that this is how you get 4 points because this is the best way to control someone. I don't know if this is the best way to take someone's back. If you have the back, I find that the body triangle is a superior form of control. From here, it's a tighter control around the waist. It's way more difficult for him to get out. And if I can isolate his movement, right, and get him to move a little bit more, he can expose his neck. And it's definitely more efficient than trying to control him with just my legs. Another position that is very good to control from the back, taking my foot, driving the back of his knee forward and crossing my feet here, right? If you just open your leg, crossing my feet behind his back leg. So instead of being here in this position, right? Josh, can you remove my foot and kind of get out? Right, and you can sit on my leg and then escape. We're going to try that with this kind of half back control. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing my inside leg to me. I'm kind of driving it back towards my body. I'm coming up and over the hip. So this part, the inside of my leg with my knee, is going over the hip. I'm squeezing down. So my knees are kind of compressing inward. And now Josh, go to escape. It's kind of locking your hip down. Now, can you move and turn and face me here? Okay, now let me get the traditional back control. Can you turn and face me here? Right. I find it funny that they are, at least 2 other modes of control from the back that don't give you 4 points in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and it's actually far superior to your traditional back control, yet the IBJJF gives you points for just placing your feet there. If we are trying to show that back control, or this form of back control, is the most dominant position, like let's say a traditional mount or traditional back mount, then we're kind of teaching our students, or teaching the jiu-jitsu practitioners an inferior form of back control, which I think is another fallacy. For a lot of academies, the first move you learn in jiu-jitsu is the shrimp escape. And I think 90% of the instructors will probably say that is the most important move to learn or know in jiu-jitsu, and I strongly disagree. If I am doing my shrimp, and let's say Josh is looking to try to pass my guard, right? And in my attempt to frame and shrimp away, I'm going to get my feet to the mat, and I'm going to push myself away to try to create more space. The problem is that creates more space between armpit and hip for Josh to settle into. I'd be much better off, if Josh is passing, of keeping these frames home, getting my legs on the inside, creating a connection, maybe something like this, to get my legs back in. The same way, let's say if you're in side control, as I go to try to push and shrimp myself away, I'm creating more space for Josh to close that gap and settle into that space. Again, I'd be much better off staying here, holding this space, and actually trying to close that space down by pulling my leg in, right? So if Josh is trying to pass, go to pass. If I connect my knee to my arm, just go to pass into that space. Keep going, pass, 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 pass. We're gonna go around in a circle. I can hold this space down. I can then start to maybe get my foot on the inside, frame, and get back into position. If he's in on a close pass, and I go to push in, he can then settle his button back into that space, and now I'm in trouble. It is also one of those moves that I feel kind of requires a lot of energy. So instead of pushing away and doing this kind of motion, right? If I just connect my arm to my leg, I'm closing down that gap. I'm not allowing that body to settle in between armpit and hip, and I can kind of follow. I can use this leg to follow. I can use this leg to go underneath. I can use this leg to go over the top and create space depending on where he's giving it to me. So if he's, let's say, sliding through, and he's about to knee cut, and I do this to pass, boom, he gets it, as opposed to, I'm gonna look to either get in low or high, okay? I'm gonna keep my arm and leg position tight. I can get my leg in here this way, create a connection, then I can get my leg out and face. If he's trying to pass, go ahead, go to pass. By just staying in here, and also from here I can also take up this space with an underhook to get back. The other scenario is if he's doing something like, say, toreando, and if I just keep my legs home and my hands together, I can go ahead, pass, and look for a way to get my legs back into position on the inside of his arms. If I did the shrimp and he's going to toreando, I give him a much easier pass. When I'm looking to try to defend my guard or close down that space, how am I going to prevent a guard pass if I'm opening up space? I don't want to open up space, I want to close that space.